Hello and welcome to this edition of One on One, in which we discuss the digital divide. Can this divide be bridged? We live on a planet where 2 out of 3 individuals have still not used the internet. Can the personal computer, truly empower the poor, the underprivileged in the world and in India? This is the topic of discussion, and let me welcome the guest who's here with me here in the studio of Lok Sabha Television. I'm very happy to welcome Satish Jha. He's CEO of OLPC Foundation. OLPC stands for One Laptop Per Child. Mr. Jha is based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in the United States, for the last 6 years or thereabouts. A person who has done the rounds of Kanpur, Agra, Varanasi, Allahabad, Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh, studied in JNU, studied at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, and currently deeply engaged in trying to ensure that technology also leads to social development. Satish ji, thank you very much for coming here to the studio. When you look at the big picture, once in a while I go to this website called World Internet Stats.
Yes.
And you come across, here is a planet where there are 6.7 billion, over 6.5 billion people. But even as we are talking, barely 2 billion people have used the internet even once.
True.
Put differently, 2 out of 3 people on this planet still haven't used the internet. So how huge or how wide is this digital divide in this planet?
Well, come to think of it, if you look at the literacy rates, they are not much different either. So if in the evolution of mankind, we haven't done much better than internet, then I think in 15 years, internet has done hell of a lot. So I would say from that point of view, technology has come to a point when we are actually bridging things faster, except that those who are not part of it, they're becoming deeper into a different kind of mess. They're falling behind every day, and that is a bigger challenge than just the spread of it. So in other words, yes, 1 in 3 has internet access, but then less than half actually are about illiterate as well, close to half. So if you see from that point of view, I will be less concerned, except that without internet ability, without getting onto this medium, people cannot now actually become part of contemporary society. So it's one more challenge.
So let's look a little bit deeper into this issue. How is it that here is a technology which essentially links computers with one another, a technology that really evolved sometime in the 80s as a defense project in the United States, and suddenly it's really from the late 90s onwards, it's been barely 12 or 15 years, and suddenly the World Wide Web seems to be having such a huge impact on human society. Who could have imagined that this would have happened in such a short period of time? Who for the life of me could have ever imagined?
And I go back in time to 1990. There was a man called James Martin. He was a forecaster. He said in 1990, in 95, there will be outbreak of internet. And you will find that by 96, every 6th person will have internet. And by 2000, every 5th person, every 4th person, before 2010, virtually half the world will have it. We come pretty close. So I would say the same thing happened with cell phones. Cell phones also made it possible for the world. If you see the cell phone and internet, I would say today, cell phone has reached more people because of the kind of technology, because it's handheld. So they have covered about 2/3 the ground, while internet is about 1/3 the ground. The reason is the nature of technology was such, it could be handed over. While in case of internet, we had to create a whole infrastructure which was actually almost much like the old time infrastructure. So the fact is, access to internet is limited by access to computers, while access to cell phone, it just married the two. So the question was, what technology will take us to the last man on this earth? Internet hasn't reached that point yet. So there are some points of inflection for technology. There are some design questions that come. There are some questions of usability and for instance, communication. In a world which is illiterate, you can still use cell phone, but you can't use internet. So internet has a higher threshold to get started with, while we can talk to each other, but unless we can read, we will not go to internet. So internet, when it started speaking, perhaps it will have a larger audience. Even then there is a question of the last mile, the question of what is the point of interaction with the last person, or you can call him customer, you can call him a person. So those are the questions that will come up. But what's more important for us is this. Every day internet takes a stride. 2/3 of humanity, in India at least 90% people, they get further left behind. So they are falling behind by staying put because someone is running faster and faster. That is the major problem in divide.
When you look at mobile telephony and internet, take a country like India. We've seen a rapid advancement in sheer number of people who are using mobile phones.
True.
I mean, until as recently as 2004, the number of landlines in India were more than the number of mobile phones. If I remember correctly, it was probably October 2004 that the number of mobile phones exceeded
presses a button, something happens. Another button, something happens, and keeps
So it's a
trying.
good computer game to play.
You start by playing something as intuitively as a little game, and suddenly you find 30, 40, 50, 200 applications, and they're all designed in such a way they're only a press of a button away, and child begins exploring, and that allows for creativity to basically, suddenly there's a surge of creativity.
In India, they've done exactly the same thing in terms of kiosks, and they put in those machines, and they've not told anybody to do anything, and suddenly you found these young boys and girls coming there and starting to press buttons, and before you know it, they are learning how to use it intuitively without anybody instructing them, without a guide, without a teacher.
That was a good experiment to open the eyes of people. That is not the way we do things, because that was still fixed somewhere. You can't learn that way, but it only showed one thing which is very important to understand, that children have creativity in them. They can figure out things if you let them use it. But by keeping things away, you are basically depriving them of a potential, realizing their own potential. So yes, that was a good experiment. It proved only that point. But that is not a model that teaches or makes people learn. That's only a demonstration of the fact that people have curiosities and they can go beyond it.
Okay. Mr. Satish Jha, I'm going to ask you to explain whether it's really possible to provide one laptop per child in this planet that we live in. Whether it's possible in India, whether it's possible in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, in the world at large. Or are we just dreaming dreams? Or are we just sort of living in a fool's paradise?
Great question.
No, wait. I need to take a break. I need to take a break in our discussion, and I'm going to ask you this question. Is it possible to actually have a machine which you can call a computer, which does not use electricity, which is dust-proof, waterproof, infrastructure-proof? Is it really possible? Is it really possible to provide one laptop for every child? This is the question that we're going to discuss in a short while from now. Stay with us. We'll be back.